حميم تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم ما خلقنا السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إلا بالحق وأجل مسمى.
Assalamu alaikum, my friends. Welcome to another episode of the Revelation Experience. I'm Miraj Mohideen, and today is a very special day because it is the last day, the last episodes before we dive into the actual beginning of Quranic revelation, beginning with Surah Al-Alaq. And so I wanted to take a moment today to kind of change things up. In the last episode, I did say that I was going to get a little bit more personal and talk about how the Quran year timeline has affected me personally and how I view it as I move through life. Well, the more I've been thinking about this, the more I kind of wanted to hold off on that specific theme because I want you guys to kind of look at this timeline, look at the themes in it, and I want you to try to discover for yourselves the secret that I was about to tell you in this episode, but I'm actually going to hold off. I want you to really work with that because what I discovered for myself is that the process of self-discovery tends to result in much more important, much more powerful, much more meaningful realizations for you in your life than if I just spoon feed you everything. And so what I will do is after we finish the first 3 Quran years, so maybe about 20 episodes later, I'm going to start revealing to you what the Quran year timeline has done for me. But I don't want to give that away too soon. So not to create a teaser here, but I really do want you guys to work with that and struggle with that. And if I give you everything too easily, it's not going to last for you. I want you to discover that for yourselves. So the homework for the next month, let's just say, is to flip back to this Quran year timeline that we have created together and try to make sense of it and ask the question, why? Why do we have these stories? Why is the Prophet, peace be upon him, going through these ups and downs? Why is the Quran being revealed during these ups and downs? And what does this have to do with my life? Why does this matter to me? Remember, we're not here just to know what happened to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We are here for transformation. If there's anything I hope you guys take away from this entire curriculum that I am creating, and it actually is a curriculum. This is something I've been working on for 5 years. I've tested out parts of this in actual schools and other seminars and so forth. And I'm putting together all those years of knowledge into what I think is the simplest way to move through the Quran in a way that's transformative, not in a way that's entertaining, not in a way that's just interesting or kind of tickles your curiosity. We're in the business of transformation here with the Revelation team. This is so important to us because this is really what the business of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was. So I want to hold off on that for right now. And again, the homework, what does the Quran year timeline have to do with your life? That's the big question. And hopefully, inshallah, we will get to that in future episodes. So what I want to do today is I first of all want to congratulate those of you who have stayed through with this. We're probably on episode number 17 or 18 or 19 or something like that. For those of you who are still here listening to me, I want to thank you, first of all, for your patience with me. I want to thank you for sticking through this. And I also hope that you found that this is paying off. I hope that we've developed some level of trust, that you know that I certainly don't want to waste any minutes of your day with unnecessary information. And I hope that you trust that I'm trying my best to take you through a really powerfully transformative process when it comes to the Quran. And so I just want to thank you for sticking through with this because now we're going to start getting into the good stuff. See, we needed the first 17 episodes just to weed out the people who were in this just for pure entertainment or whatnot. And I wanted to be left with the community, the close people who are now very serious about getting into the Quran, because this is where it gets fun. This is where it gets exciting, but this is also where the heavy lifting comes in. This is where it's time to actually do some work on our own. And so I want to, again, thank you for sticking with me, but also let you know that, you know what, now we're going to be beginning with the hard stuff. So while I am thanking you guys for listening, I also want to thank 2 other people who have helped me so far in this journey of mine, and that would be my parents. My mother has had an incredibly formative role in my life. She's the one who taught me how to read Quran. She's the one who sat by my side and the side of my siblings for years and years and years, and every day, like, we had to read Quran. That was like the one kind of thing in our life. It's like, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and make sure that you read at least 5 pages of Quran, with my mother sitting down next to me the entire time. So aside from teaching me the Quran, my mother also really helped me develop an appreciation for world religions, so that when I grew up, I recognized that every religion, in some ways, they have some beauty in them. There's an inspiration to every religion. And instead of just judging everything and saying, oh, Muslim versus non-Muslim, it's important to look at different faiths, be it Christianity, Judaism, or the Eastern traditions like Buddhism, Hinduism, all of these large world religions. They all have elements of inspiration, and possibly they all come from revealed sources. And so, my mother really helped me understand that, so I wouldn't have this closed view of the world. Certainly, I believe that the Quran is the only remaining book of revelation that is pure and untouched, that goes back to the original source. But that being said, my mother really helped me understand that, people's philosophies and people's ways of life, they're not something that we should look down on, but something that we should try to understand. And if anything, it really helps us appreciate the gift that we have in the Quran more than anything else. And so I just wanted to thank my mother for that. When it comes to my father is a physician and a scientist, and so his approach has always been very intellectual. It's, in that way, my father reminds me very much of that example of Ibrahim alayhis salam, who was really the intellectual prophet. He was one who was constantly, trying to figure out the world, understand why the world works the way it does, and come up with the questions that help him develop a deeper faith, a deeper relationship with Allah. In addition to that, aside from just asking why all the time, not just what and how, my father really instilled in me this idea of an action-based Islam. What do I mean by that? Well, his idea of a good Muslim is someone who performs all of the obligatory acts, all the things that we have been asked to do by Allah. But after that, that person goes out in the world and helps people around him. So for my father, growing up my entire life, the refrain every day was, it's about those who believe and who do good deeds, right? And so you've heard me stress this before as probably, my father's voice in the back of my head, who is just reciting what the Quran is saying almost in every chapter, right? Aminu wa amilu salihat, those who believe and do good deeds. It never says people who believe alone, right? Because you have to back that up with action. And if there's anything that my father taught me, it is that our iman, our belief, our faith in God has to be backed up with action. In fact, my father's favorite verse in the entire Quran, his very favorite verse, and the verse that we heard growing up every single day, was a verse from Surah Al-Baqarah. It's actually verse number 177. And the verse goes like this: righteousness is not that you turn your faces towards the east or the west, meaning that act of making salam that we do in prayer. Righteousness is not that you turn your faces towards the east or the west, but true righteousness is in the one who believes in Allah, the last day, the angels, the book, and the prophets, and gives wealth in spite of love for it to relatives, orphans, the needy, the traveler, those who ask for help, and for freeing slaves, establishing the prayer, giving zakah, who fulfill their promise when they promise, and those who are patient in poverty and hardship and during battle. Those are the ones who have been true, and it is those who are righteous, those who are muttaqun.
ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين وآتى المال على حبه ذوي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل والسائلين وفي الرقاب وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس أولئك الذين صدقوا وأولئك هم المتقون.
So why am I bringing this verse up today? Because I want to be very clear with our intentions, my intentions in this curriculum, and I want you all to take a moment before we dive into the Quran tomorrow to really take a moment to purify your intentions, to really think about your intentions. It's actually helpful to write it out so that you're not just faking the exercise. What is your intention this year as you go through the Quran? Is the intention to be entertained? Is the intention to just know things for the sake of knowing things? Or is the intention to be transformed by this experience? And I hope your answer is the latter. Transformation is the key here, right? It doesn't matter how many surahs we memorize if it's not having this transformative effect on us, right? It does not matter how deep we get into the Quran if the Quran is not penetrating deeply into us. And so for that reason, the revelation experience is about going through the Quran slowly and building for mastery. We are doing it Abu Bakr style. Remember, you could call this Umar style. You could call it Sayyidina Uthman style. You could call it Sayyidina Khadija style. Whatever you want to call it. A, then B, then C. That's how we're doing this, which means that there is no way we are going to rush through this Quran in the next 30 days or the next 60 days or even the next 120 days. Because that wasn't the way they did it. They took 23 years to get through this Quran. Not because they were lazy, not because they didn't have time for it. It's because they had to do what? They had to also do the homework, which means they had to give away wealth while listening to this Quran. They had to take care of their relatives and the orphans and the needy and the travelers. They had to free slaves while they were listening to this Quran. They had to give zakat and prayer. They had to fulfill their promises and be tested by their oaths. They had to be tested by patience and perseverance through poverty and hardship and battles. That's the homework of the Quran. And so what we have to do as we go through the Quran, and so I'm giving you a heads up now, because there may be some of you listening who are so used to other, speakers or other, webinars or systems where it's like, okay, let's do the Quran in 30 days. And I think that's beneficial too, to get overviews. And I myself have done that practice. Last year I did that practice of doing a juz a day of understanding. But now we are in the process of transformation. In this day, in this age, we need to really focus on transforming ourselves, which is why we're not going to rush this. We're going to really sit with the Meccan surahs first, really reflect on them, get some meaningful transformation before we even dare to move into the Medinan period of the Sirah and of the Quran. So what I'm asking of you today is to really focus on that intention and to really start thinking about how you might be able to shift your existing paradigms about your approach to your life, your approach to your deen, your approach to understanding the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and your approach to the Quran. Let me give you an analogy that might help you understand what I have observed and maybe kick off a little bit of reflection for yourself. Imagine our ummah, our community, is a classroom. And at the front of the classroom, we have a teacher, and that teacher is the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And he's teaching from the book, which is the classroom book, the text, which is the Quran. Okay? Now, imagine the Prophet Muhammad is a teacher, and there are many rows of desks. You have the first row of desks, let's just say it's 10 chairs that goes from the left side of the room to the right side of the room. And behind that, there's a second row and a third row and a fourth row. And imagine we are in the fifth row. Okay, there are 50 students in this classroom. It's a large classroom, and we're in the fifth row. Okay, so the first row would represent the people who were closest to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in time. So these are the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, the Taba Tabi'een. These are the children of the companions, the children of the children of the companions. These would include people like all the names of the companions we know. It would include the scholars, Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim and Ahmad and so forth. It would include the the Imams of fiqh, so it would include Imam Malik, and Imam Shafi, and Imam Hanafi, and so forth. So this includes all of these people, the classicists, okay? And then in the second row, you might have some of the maybe, medieval scholars and so forth. So every row represents, a couple hundred years or so forth. We're in the back row, right? Because we're the latest generation to be born into the world. And yet we are still claiming to be part of this classroom, this ummah, this community of the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him. And we all ascribe to be his loyal and devoted students. Now, imagine the Prophet Muhammad today as a teacher. Again, pretend he's just a teacher, a grammar school teacher. He's teaching us spelling today, okay? So what he is doing is he's putting a spelling exercise on the board. And so we all have a piece of paper in front of us, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, or the teacher in this case, wants to spell a difficult word. Let's just make up a word. Revelation. Okay, it's a longer word. He says, okay, the goal of today's class is I want you to start understanding how to spell longer words like revelation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the word on the board. And I want you guys to start trying to figure out how to spell this word revelation. So he writes the letters Revelation on the board. And he asks all of us at the top of the page to write that word in big capital letters on the top of our piece of paper. So we all write on the top Revelation, revelation. Now, the teacher says, what I want you to do is I want you to write that word over and over again 20 times for all 20 lines on the piece of paper. So underneath revelation, I want you to write revelation, and I want you to write it again and again and again in perfect penmanship. And when you are done, when you feel like you understand how to spell this word, I want you to turn in your assignment. So what happens? The first row, they start writing revelation, erase it. It was V, E, pause, scratching their head, because they're covering up, the way they spelled it the first time so they can keep quizzing themselves. It's hard work, right? Revelation, revelation. Then they look at it and they check it against the real word. Oh, I made a mistake. So then they erase it. And they rewrite it again, Revelation, revelation. And then they check it against the thing. And now they're erasing it again because they're not getting it, right? They're erasing it, crossing out, erasing it, and they finally get it right, Revelation. But at this point, the paper has a hole in it because they've been erasing so many times in that one spot. So the paper's not looking that good, but at least they got revelation right. Okay, the second line. Revelation. Oh, wait a second. I used a B instead of a V. I should get this right. They scratch it out, erase it on the second line. R-E. Now, you understand what I'm trying to do here. This first row, they're working really hard because they're covering up the answer and they're trying to really work through this and get this writing right. But what's happening is their paper is starting to get really beat up. It's got a lot of erase marks, cross-outs. It looks kind of messy. The row behind them, the second row, they realize that if they don't cover up the name, they can kind of just write it out. So they just cover up half of it, R-E-V-E. They look at that first, quickly, R-E-V-E. And then they cover up the second half. They uncover the second half, and now they can see, the answer is right there. So they just write really quickly, Revelation. That was pretty easy. They look at their answer above without covering up the answer, and then they write again, Revelation. They do it again. And they keep doing it. They're looking at their answers, but by the time they get to the bottom of the page, Revelation, and they have a perfectly pristine piece of paper. But they've been copying the answers above and above. The third row is doing somewhat of the same thing. The fourth row, their paper looks really clean because they're just copying word for word, letter for letter every single time. In fact, some of the people in the fourth row devised a system that instead of writing Revelation across the page, halfway down the page, they realize, you know what? If we just write R all the way down the sheet, it's perfectly lined up. and our paper looks really nice, the assignment will be correct, and it looks really good. So they just start writing R, 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 R. Then they go to the next column, E, 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 all the way down the page. Then the next one, V, 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 V. All right? How many of you have done this growing up? I remember doing this when my mother gave me spelling exercises. Now the fifth row is us. So what have we seen? Well, we're inheriting this system that came from the fourth row, which is kind of like a mix of the traditional system, but infused with some tips and tricks from the more recent scholars, the more recent, I don't want to say scholars, but pedagogy. So the most recent learning styles that have come to us. Because we can only whisper to the people in front of us, hey, how are you guys doing the assignment? Oh, just do this. Just write R all the way down the page. We started doing it halfway down. But if you guys start at the top, it'll look perfect and you'll finish before everyone else in the classroom. And your paper will look better than everyone else's. So us in the last row, we say, hey guys, let's just do this. Start at the top, write R, and write a column of R's all the way down the page. Then write a column of E's, then a column of V's. And by the end, you write a column of N's, and we turn in the paper before everyone else. We go up to the front, hand the teacher the piece of paper, and the teacher says, oh my gosh, this is perfect. You wrote Revelation in perfect penmanship all the way down the page. And we go back and we cross our arms and feel so good about ourselves because we did the assignment first and nicest. The last persons to turn in the assignment is the first row. In fact, they didn't even finish writing this word down the entire page before the bell rang. The bell rings and the teacher says, okay, hand in your papers. And the first row, who struggled with this and has all these eraser marks and the pages are ripped and so forth, they've only done maybe 5 lines of writing the word. Their paper looks messy, but the teacher accepts it and says, well, you guys worked hard, you did the best you could do. Okay, everyone leaves. The next day, people come back. Pop quiz. I want you all to put away all your papers and I want you to write on a piece of paper, Revelation. Which one of those students is going to get it right, do you think? Is it the students in the back who are just writing R's and E's and V's? The students who did the most perfectly beautiful assignment? Or do you think it was the students in the front rows who really struggled with it and tried to learn the material? And even though their assignment the day before didn't look clean and pretty, there's a lot more sweat, a lot more heavy lifting, a lot more work, a lot more internalizing of this lesson. Who do you think is going to actually do well on the quiz? And so the reason why I'm using this analogy is because what has happened, I believe, in our community is that we are in these back rows where the emphasis has been on getting the job done in a way that looks pretty and looks clean, but with the least amount of actual internal effort. It means that we are so focused on how the exercise looks, how clean and how nice the paper looks at the end of the exercise, we have forgotten what the point of the exercise was before, right? We're talking about what. We're so focused on the what we completed the exercise, not why. Why is that we finally recognize how to spell this word. And so in the same way, and I know it might sound like I'm belaboring this point, and that's great if I am, because I feel that the paradigms today have created a situation where many people are in the back row. Many people are constantly focused on, I have to do 20 rakats. And if I don't do 20 rakats during Taraweeh, then this thing blows up. This Ramadan doesn't count. I have to finish the Quran during Ramadan, because if I don't, I didn't get credit for it. And the most important thing is to get credit for the assignment, not to be changed by the assignment. And so again, I'm saying this over and over again because our approach this go around with the Quran is to be changed by this book, by this lesson, not to do it cleanly and beautifully and perfectly and quickly. It's to do it slowly with a lot of sweat, tears, ripped pages, eraser marks, crossouts, broken lead, with a lot of effort. Because this was the story of the earliest companions, the first row of people, the best of the best. It was not pretty. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But these are the people who actually are the best students. And we have the capacity to take on their learning style, which means we don't cheat. We don't look at the answers. We're not sitting in this class to be entertained. We're sitting in this class to be changed. And so that's what we are trying to accomplish in this go-around as we journey through the story of Quranic revelation. What we're going to be doing in the next few episodes is going through a couple of Quran years at a time. This means our approach will be, we'll probably go through about 3 Quran years. So Quran years 1, 2, and 3 in the Sirah, the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, with all the relevant Quran as it is being revealed. Then, if this was a regular, normal course, we would just go through Quran years 4, 5, and 6. But we're not going to do that. What we are going to do, after we do Quran years 1, 2, 3 in the Sirah, is we're going to do Quran years 1, 2, and 3 in the Quran. Remember, we're building for mastery. So we are not moving forward in the Sirah until we've mastered the Quran. So we will be doing Quran years 1, 2, 3 in the Quran, the very earliest surahs. That will take us roughly 20 episodes or so to go through all that material. And don't be daunted by it. These episodes are going to be fairly short. I will try to keep them sweet and succinct, but we will go through all of that, and then we will discuss some of these major themes so that we understand how these surahs have importance and meaning in our lives. That's the heavy lifting, remember? After that, then we will move forward into the Sirah, into years 4, 5, and 6, and also into the Quran, into Quran years 4, 5, and 6. So that will be our approach moving forward. What I also wanted to do in this episode is I wanted to actually bring on a guest today, just to make it a little bit special today, because today is a special day. It's a day before we begin diving into the Quran. And so I actually asked our incredible Qari, Sheikh Hassan Halil, to share his story as he helps us with the revelation experience. Now, just as a little background, I've known Hassan for probably 3 years right now. And my story with him is that I actually one day was going to the masjid for Taraweeh prayers. And when I showed up, and this was not kind of the masjid I always go to, it's one of the secondary masjids that I go to, I stood in line and the recitation began. And by the time he finished Surah Al-Fatiha, my jaw had hit the floor. And it was because my favorite reciter my entire life is a Qari by the name of Abu Bakr Ash-Shatri, who I first listened to when I was in college, and it had just a huge impact on me. It was the first time I listened to a Qari who really, really took me places with the Quran that I could never go with anyone else. I was just so moved by his recitation. And so ever since that time in the 90s, I always loved listening to all the different types of Qaris, but my very favorite of all was Sheikh Abu Bakr Ash-Shatri. Well, when I listened to the Imam at the masjid, it sounded like the person who I loved, Abu Bakr Ash-Shatri, was leading the prayer. But yet there was something a little bit different about the recitation, but I could definitely tell that he was following that style. And it's not a very common style. And so after the prayer was over, I was trying to see who was leading, and I saw this young boy leading the prayer. I went up to him, and I introduced myself to him, and it turns out that that young boy, who was Hassan, but only younger, maybe he was in college at the time, he was a young Hafiz who had just recently finished his Hifz and also just finished receiving his Ijazah in Tajweed, in recitation and so forth. And as I was talking to him, he had told me that yes, his favorite reciter was also the same reciter, Abu Bakr Ash-Shatri. But as I listened to Hassan more and more, I realized that I actually like his recitation more than the person he was modeling himself after. And so ever since that day, I have always just absolutely loved listening to Hassan recite Quran. And so much so that, shortly after that, we developed a relationship because he is my Quran teacher. Hassan's probably half my age, but it's the greatest gift, one of the greatest gifts in my life, that I have someone who I just love listening to and helps me really connect with the Quran. He happens to be the person who I get to meet with every weekend at the masjid and also on Skype every week and just go to the Quran and help me with my tajweed, because my tajweed was really non-existent up until a year or two ago. And it is Hassan who has been helping me fix this deficiency that I've had my entire life. And so I'm very close to Hassan. In fact, I'm very close to his father also, who is one of the local imams here and one of the most respected people in the community, him and his entire family. And so I just wanted to explain to you that's who the Qari is. And I just thought it'd be nice to get a few words from Hassan talking about what his journey has been like, helping me put together this revelation experience for all of you.
So my journey started out when I was in high school, and I started out when I was around 16. Alhamdulillah, finished when I was 19. I had multiple attempts to finish memorizing before, but that's when I actually got serious, when I was in my high school years. And I was blessed to have a teacher that was just a couple months older than me, so alhamdulillah, we got along really well. He was a close friend of mine. And we met 5 times a week for around 2.5 years. Alhamdulillah, After that, I finished. When I started, I never expected to finish because I'd had so many attempts to start before. But once I finally got to the end, alhamdulillah, I was so grateful.
على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا إنا خلقنا الإنسان من نطفة أمشاج نبتليه فجعلناه سميعا بصيرا.
And once you finish memorizing, the expectation is always to give back to the community, and to help people memorize. And alhamdulillah, I was a part of that. But it's always been a dream of mine to go beyond that, because a lot of people memorize and they don't understand what's being recited, or they don't really connect with the Quran. They just kind of do it because that's the tradition, or their parents want them to do it. So I wanted to bring people closer to the Quran. So that's why when Mi'raj told me about this, and when I met Mi'raj, I was really excited. Like, it was literally like the answer to the du'as that I was making to help people come closer to the Quran. And to see that happening with what we've been putting out is just amazing.
إذ جاءتهم الرسل من بين أيديهم ومن خلفهم ألا تعبدوا إلا الله قالوا لو شاء ربنا لأنزل ملائكة فإنا بما أرسلتم به كافرون.
I was going through what some people were saying for like the episodes that we were releasing. To see someone say, Jazakallah khair, may Allah reward you for your great work. Personally, it comes at a time in my life where it gives great meaning and motivation to learn more. Thank you so very much for the insightful episodes. I especially enjoy hearing the recitation of the Quran as you tie it into your topic each episode. MashaAllah, the recitation is very comforting and moving. So to see Mi'raj incorporate the recitations in a way that it benefits everyone, and to see that it moves people and makes it more relevant to their lives, that is just that's amazing, subhanAllah. And to see that happening is incredible. And so I want to thank Mi'raj for letting me be a part of this and to help me fulfill my dreams. And of course, I'm always grateful to my parents who motivated me to memorize the Quran and always kept me going and raised me in a way that made me want to memorize the Quran. And of course, alhamdulillah, always grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gave me the opportunity and blessed me with memorizing the Quran.
So now you've heard it in our Qari's own words. You got to know him a little bit better, and I hope in future episodes we'll bring him on again and he can connect with you guys also. Make sure you look at the description below this video. In that, I have put Hassan Halal's YouTube channel. Make sure you go to his channel, subscribe to that, listen to that, and connect with the Quran. This is something that I've been encouraging him to do for a long time. And like he said, he's been working very hard trying to build up this complete set of all the surahs recited. Finally, because we started this episode with me thanking those people who have helped make this possible, including my parents, I want to just take one moment to very specifically thank my wife for helping me get to this point, and also for managing the family in a way that I actually have the time to do this while I am also working and also trying to take care of the family as well. So every moment that I am taping these episodes is a moment that my wife is dealing with the children and all of their projects and so forth. So without her, most of the stuff that I'm doing would never have gotten done. And so I just want to thank her for that. We're going to end this episode with the verses that we always end with in Surah Al-Ahqaf, but I'm going to play them in an extended version because we were talking about giving thanks and giving thanks to our families. And this surah is one of my favorite surahs. This set of verses is one of my favorite verses because it speaks to exactly where I am in my personal journey with the Quran and my personal journey with Allah. And I thought that this might appeal to the rest of you also. That verse reads, Inna alladhina qalu Rabbuna Allahu. Indeed, those who have said, our Lord is Allah, and then remained on a right course, there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve.
إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون.
فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. The same words that were given to Adam. Remember, Allah told Adam, whoever follows my guidance will have nothing to fear, nor will they grieve. Now, millennia later, Allah is telling the Prophet, the Muslims, and to us, those who say our Lord is Allah and remain on a right course, for them will be no fear, nor will they grieve. The verse continues, these are the companions of paradise, abiding eternally therein, as a reward for what they used to do.
أولئك أصحاب الجنة خالدين فيها جزاء بما كانوا يعملون.
Now I end every video with those verses, but I wanted to just give you a couple more verses because this is really why this verse speaks to me. Allah says, we have enjoined upon man to his parents good treatment. His mother carried him with hardship and gave birth to him, and his gestation and weaning period is 30 months. He grows until when he reaches maturity and reaches the age of 40. Allah actually uses a specific age of 40 when He says, Arba'ina sanatan. So this is 40 years. When he reaches the age of 40, he says, my Lord, Rabbi awzi'ni, enable me to be grateful for the favor which you have bestowed upon me and upon my parents, and to work righteousness of which you will approve and make righteous for me my offspring. Indeed, I have repented to you, and indeed, I am one of the Muslims.
ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه إحسانا حملته أمه كرها ووضعته كرها وحمله وفصاله 30 شهرا حتى إذا بلغ أشده وبلغ 40 سنة قال رب أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأصلح لي في ذريتي إني تبت إليك وإني من المسلمين.
Allah continues, those are the ones from whom we will accept the best of what they did and overlook their misdeeds. They are amongst the companions of paradise. That is the promise of the truth which they have been promised.
أولئك الذين نتقبل عنهم أحسن ما عملوا ونتجاوز عن سيئاتهم في أصحاب الجنة وعد الصدق الذي كانوا يوعدون.
And so, this is why these verses mean so much to me. This is clear evidence. This is a clear promise from Allah that all of us, if we stick together and do what the Quran is saying, be inspired, be transformed by the Quran, we too have a promise that Allah says is promised to us. So let's end with a full recitation of all these verses. Tomorrow, inshallah, we will begin the story of Quranic revelation. I can't wait to see you guys soon, inshallah. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا فلا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون أولئك أصحاب الجنة خالدين فيها جزاء بما كانوا يعملون ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه إحسانا حملته أمه كرها ووضعته كرها وحمله وفصاله 30 شهرا حتى إذا بلغ أشده وبلغ 40 سنة قال رب أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه وأصلح لي في ذريتي إني تبت إليك وإني من المسلمين. أولئك الذين نتقبل عنهم أحسن ما عملوا ونتجاوز عن سيئاتهم في أصحاب الجنة وعد الصدق الذي كانوا يوعدون.